You know which track it is. Seven. So you get the new Lauren Daigle CD and you go out to a road, but there are no like stop signs or stoplights or anything where you can drive freely. And you turn on what Shelley believes to be track number 7, and we'll just listen to What Have I Done to Deserve Love Like This. Go ahead and crank that up. And I'll just give you a little bit of a warning. You'll need at least one hand free to do some eye wiping. Because when you get that opportunity to be overwhelmed by the fact that God, heaven loves you, and you can't figure out why. And then you just get to realize He loves you because He loves you. And that's good enough. That's good enough. So I hope that we'll get lost in that love, the love the Father has for us today. Would you stand up and we're going to talk to Him? Father God, as we come into your presence right now, as we sing to you, I pray that we would get lost in the wonder of love. Why in the world? What have we done to deserve love like this? Nothing. We just are. We're just here. You created us, and you said, I choose to love you. I pray that our hearts would learn to receive that love today. In Jesus' name.
You ourselves this morning. That we can still, that the thoughts racing around our minds, the worries running around our hearts would be still this morning so that we can be ready to hear your word and apply it to our lives. Have a seat. We're going to enter into our time of communion this morning. And as you well know by now, we've been going through some soul care questions during this season of communion. Last week we started the third section of our soul care questions, focusing on questions that deal with our relationships with other people. So our question last week was, do I thank God that I'm not like others? We looked at the story of the Pharisee and the tax collector. They were in the temple praying, and the Pharisee, this religious leader who has all the religious knowledge in the world, begins praying, and he says, God, look at me. Look at how good. He looks over at the tax collector praying, and he says, thank God, that I'm not like that wretched tax collector. And then the tax collector, we find out that he's praying, and instead of looking around, he compared himself to God's glorious standard. And the tax collector says, God, I need mercy. I need your grace. And Jesus points out that it's the tax collector, not the Pharisee, not the religious leader, not the one who's supposed to know what to do, who's actually following what God wanted. This week, we're going to double down on that question. Do I thank God that I'm not like others? Because in our culture, it's really easy to compare ourselves to each other. Whether that's family life, whether that's schools, whether that's grades, whatever it is. Bonuses. we always tend to compare ourselves to each other. And I think that starts right here. It starts with that me-first attitude. When we look at how other people's lives are going or what other people have, we start with ourselves. Why don't I have that? Why me? Or why not me? Right? So we either look and we put ourselves above other people saying, oh, thank God I'm not like that. Or we put ourselves down here and say, oh, I really wish that I could be that person or have what that other person has. I'm going to challenge you this week to find that trigger. To find the trigger that when you begin comparing yourself to someone else, find out the heart of that. Find out the root of that. And as you do, take time to just come before God and pray. Say, God, I understand that I'm comparing myself to someone else in an unholy way. For me, I actually went through this question, not specifically, but I went through this about a year and a half ago myself, as I was just dealing with some things in my life. And what I realized is that when I woke up in the morning, I pulled out my alarm clock, shut off the alarm clock, and then I started going through what's on my phone. And for me, again, when I'm using my phone, even though I'm right-handed, my phone is usually in my left. So I put my most used apps in those convenient thumb spots. So in the morning, I would wake up and the first thing that I'm opening is Thunderous Stat. Okay. The first thing that I opened was, it used to be the Yahoo Fantasy app. Because I'm a big fantasy sports player, baseball, football, I do everything. So I'd go to teams and make sure that they've got going, see if I'm making trades. Then I'd move over to Instagram, which is next to that. And I'd see how everyone's doing, right? And then right above that, in the perfect little L, I go to Facebook. And I'd see what everybody's having to say there. And I realized, why am I starting my day essentially comparing myself to other people? What am I doing, or what can I do to kind of get this in the button? So what I did is I actually moved those three apps. I moved Fantasy to a completely different page. I moved Instagram and Facebook into a folder up at the top right corner of my phone, the least spot for my thumb to reach if I'm holding it with one hand. And instead, what I did is I took my YouVersion Bible app and my Echo prayer reminder app, and I put those in my two most immediate spots. So for me, I was really digging through some stuff. I found that when we start our day, or when we even just open our phone throughout the day, when you go to God first, or when you go to pray for other people first, it's amazing what happens to your mindset. Now you're not comparing yourself to others in the same way. Now you're comparing yourself to God's Savior. You're coming and looking at other people with God's eyes. And you're looking at your life with God's eyes. But maybe, we're going to spend about 30 seconds in silence here. Maybe that is something that you can do. Maybe you've got that thing that you always go to, and you look at Instagram and you're like, man, I wish I could smile as much as what you're looking at. Maybe, or you go to Facebook and there's that person who you compare yourself to, you're like, oh, they complain every single day. Thank God that I'm not like that. Thank God that I don't have to complain like they do every day. I encourage you to move those things around. Get them out of the most convenient spot on your phone so that when you open that thing, it's not a device of pulling you away from God. That is making it easier for you to compare yourself to others. But instead, coming and meeting God, praying, doing things that get us on that level. So again, we're going to spend about 30 seconds of silence, like I said. So if you want, pull out your phone and move those things around. Maybe if you're not a tech person, you're like, my phone doesn't do anything for me. Again, think about that trigger. What is it throughout your week, throughout your day, that you find yourself most often looking and comparing yourself to others? Try and identify that, and then you start forming a plan on how you and God can impact that. At the end of that 30 seconds, you can move to 1 of 4 stations around the room. We have 2 in the back and 2 here in the front. You can receive communion as the families.
That death surrendered to the mighty cross of Jesus Christ, the earth would shake beneath the weight of darkened skies. And on his brow a crown of sorrow, for a king whose weakness was our strength. No word he spoke, his love was shown for all to see. The cross of Jesus Christ is the reason I'm alive, for his blood has set me free. In heaven is power for me. At the dawn of resurrection, Christ's light as hope begins to shine. Salvation waits, our chains to break, and we rise. Oh, the cross of Jesus Christ is the reason I'm alive, for his blood has set me free. It will never lose its
What a beautiful reminder of truth that we need, and that is that the cross is truly a difference maker. We cannot be the same relationship that we have with Jesus. I was appreciative of your mentioning of triggers and thinking through triggers, Brian. I'm going to be probably vulnerable, but I'm safe being vulnerable, but I'm going to do it anyway. I read the Bible and I come across that story about the tax collector and this Pharisee, and I look at that story and I kind of go, I'm okay on that one, check, because I don't tend to look at other people, their sin pattern or unrighteousness or whatever, and kind of go, thank God I'm not like them. I think I have a healthy dose there about the grace of God in my life. But then talk about triggers, I'm like, I don't view myself as superior to people in terms of righteousness, but I can view myself as superior in terms of rightness. And I like to be right, and I like to think, and I like logic. So, I think about the times that for me a trigger might be, I'll turn a situation that's a different perspective than my own, and I'll just sit there kind of shaking my head, wondering how can people think that way, and then kind of go, wow. I'm sitting here this morning going, wow, how arrogant is that to assume that because I think a certain way, everybody should think that way. So it really puts I think it puts a great twist on it, that we can't just kind of check off that passage and say we're okay there. There's some area, I suspect, that all of us have that little bit of a Pharisee moment that we look at a person and say, I'm doing okay, look at that verse coming back over there. So I really appreciate the way you drew that out. Servers are coming to collect the offering, and those are coming up for you so you can see as you participate in the offering. We have the links back for you. I asked Brian in the first service, I will in a second, what's the little blue plus mark all about with the arrow over here?
The links is our weekly email that's sent out about 8 a.m. every Sunday morning that gives you all the announcements that we go through. So whenever we talk about registration links or anything like that, we send them out in an email that we call the links. If you'd like to get signed up for that, you can go to southfieldchurch.com. You can right now if you want. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and there you'll see all of our other links. Go to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, which has our services now. But then you go all the way to the right, you'll see that blue plus sign. If you click that, enter your email in, you'll start receiving the links every Sunday morning at 8.
So we call links because it's literally a bunch of links. It makes it very convenient for you. If you've got your phone or your device right now, you can go out some things. So one of the areas that we're looking for help right now are people who would be willing to be involved in coffee cleanup. All that stuff needs to go away at the end of the service. It explains that basically that happens on a monthly schedule, so you serve a month and you have some time off. Or if maybe that doesn't work for you, you might consider just subbing. So you click on respond here, and they'll go ahead and contact you on that. How about the blood drive?
Yeah, on October 10th, we're going to do our second Southfield Blood Drive, which is a really neat event. We get together with Heartland Blood Center and come in and literally have like a station set up all over. I guess we'll probably do the gyms.
I think they're doing it in here.
Oh, in here? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. So, blood all over? No. We're gonna be doing it again. Last time it was pretty neat. Now, there are several pieces of this that are fun. First part, Bob and I have started an official competition to see who gets fastest. Last time we both did like a double donation, which that's not bragging. That's like there's certain people who are able to do that. And I was like, absolutely. I'll do it. So we started about the same time, and we started giving blood. They look like this stress ball in your hand, and you're supposed to pulse like throughout the blood giving process. I hadn't given blood in a while, so I sat there. She said, "Yeah, just squeeze this, and the blood will start to flow through." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense." So I squeezed it. I held my hand as tight as I could for 30 minutes. And finally, one of the nurses comes over and she goes, "Honey, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." Look, she's like, "You look really nervous. Like you're clenching that thing really tight." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right?" She's like, "No, pulse." And I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." So then I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll just release my hand." And then I tried, and I'm like, the claw. That's terrible. So
Bob won last time.
Well, I'm asking, I'm looking for revenge. But if anybody thinks that they can get blood faster, come on out. The two other neat things for this, again, my grandmother in the 2 or 3 years before he passed in for regular transfusions, 2-3 times a week sometimes. So personally, giving blood has had a huge impact on our family. Because if he didn't have that, we would have lost him pretty soon. And then on top of that, my personal family is affected by it, and then our church family, we actually, for every successful donation, because we're going to have some students working it, Heartland gives $10 per successful donation. So, and that's us to use however we want, all right? So we actually took the money that we earned last time, and we were able to purchase the TV for the Nook. So if you go into the gym, into that little area that some of the Journey groups are going to be using, that TV was purchased with, as you put it so delicately in first service, blood money. So, again, no matter what your reasoning is, whether it's just to come be with us or, and again, we understand, like, some people, like, can't because you have a definitely fear of needles or, you know, you've got other things going on that you take medication that you can't. Anybody that can, we really appreciate it because it has such a major impact on it.
And if you go to the learn more, it'll explain like what medications are disallowed and things like that. So you've got that. Membership seminar is actually starting this week on October 9th, 3 weeks in a row. We'll spend some time talking through the history of our church, the nature of it, what we're all about, and if that's something you'd like to pursue, you can go ahead and sign up for that, or also you can just go ahead and show up as well. So, I don't know, is Mark in this service? Mark Beckman? No, just came to the first, okay. One of the things we talked about at the end of the first service is that today is Mark Beckman's last Sunday with us. He's moving with his dad down near Champaign, a couple hours away, and Mark's meant a ton to our church family. He's served for years in very, just very, I don't know, private ways that nobody would, you know. Roger Swank recruited him years ago at the old building to be the person to mop the basement floor for our children's ministry. And he'd come every Saturday night and make sure that was clean. He's been involved since we moved in here every Sunday, making sure chairs are in place. And we kind of kidded, you know, we stopped, turned down chairs 2 weeks ago, so Mark felt the freedom to say, okay, I can leave now. But, so, no, not really. We're going to miss him. We're going to miss him greatly. He's meant a lot for our student ministry.
Yeah, he's been involved in junior high for years and years and years. He's been on every Green Lake trip. So again, the impact that he's had on our students, he was always excellent at finding that kid who would pull back from the rest of the group. You know, when everybody's playing a game or engaged in like big conversation, whether it was the student who was preserved because they were just nervous or shy or you know, whatever we were doing didn't fit the kind of what they wanted to do. Mark was the one who was usually first on the scene to go to seek them out and make them feel comfortable and loved. So again, he's going to be missed dearly.
So he's not here now, but you could catch him on Facebook or
Yeah.
we'll make sure that address is there that you can send him.
Yeah, I will. I do want to lay out, he did already change his phone number to a 217. So if you have Mark Beckman's phone number and you go to shoot text, don't do it because it'll fire back at you. And somebody who has his phone number now is going to be receiving a bunch of texts, I'm sure. But I actually have his new number, so if you'd like to shoot me a text, you can catch me for service.
All right, great. Thanks, man. Well, today you're going to hear what may be the most un-American sermon I will ever preach. Now, don't get tense. I'm not getting political. We'll leave that to Fox News, SNBC, okay? I'm not going to want to rant about a president or the police or social policy or anything like that. And I'm not going to address any one of our many social ills. The core teaching of Jesus goes against everything you will hear preached in the present-day American culture. And by preached, I mean the nonstop flow of messaging with which we are bombarded by commercials, TV shows, talk show hosts, teachers, and just about anybody preaching the American gospel. What is the American gospel? Well, in part, the American gospel says you can have it all. You should have it all. In fact, you should have all of what somebody else has. You should have it all. The American gospel says the first shall be first and second is first loser. The American gospel says avoid discomfort and pain. Steer clear of the tough stuff. The American gospel says don't worry, there's a pill for that. The American gospel says deny yourself nothing, indulge in everything. The American gospel says there's nothing a healthy dose of debt can't purchase. The American gospel has led to the formation of a nation with a deep sickness of the soul. Listen to these radical, un-American words of Jesus. If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way. You must take up your cross, and you must follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, that's when you save it. And what do you do, and what will it do? What benefit will it be if you gain the whole world, but you lose your own soul? Is there anything at all worth more than your soul? So let's break this down. Un-American principle number 1, follow. Follow. I've read dozens of books on leadership. There are countless seminars and studies available to train a person on how to lead well. Can you name one good book on followership? Just one. When's the last time you signed up for a course on how to get behind someone else and follow them? If any of you wants to be my follower, Jesus says. The International Version of the Bible says, if anyone wants to be my disciple, Jesus literally says, if anyone resolves to come after me. This word is used in John 12:19 when Jesus rides into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and the Pharisees observe, look how the whole world has gone after him. They're following him. It's used in 1 Timothy 5:15 of people who have peeled off from following Jesus to instead follow Satan. It is used in Revelation 13:3 of those who will follow the beast one day. It is a term that implies giving your allegiance and giving your whole life over to someone else so that they can take the lead and you do not. Now, if you've been listening to evangelical teaching for the past number of decades, you would likely be left to conclude that salvation is all about the benefits, what we get out of a relationship with Jesus. What do you get? Well, you go to heaven when you die. You'll have less pain and less problems. Health and wealth will abound. Pray, live right, and hold out your hands for an outpouring of God's blessing. Yet Jesus starts with these words. If anyone resolves to come after me, if anyone wants to be my follower, if anyone wants to be my disciple, he doesn't talk benefits. He talks responsibilities. He doesn't talk about position. He talks about a posture of submission. And by the way, he doesn't offer this as some sort of special Cadillac plan for people who really, really, really want to love God. This is not for the radically committed. This offer is for anyone who chooses to believe in him. He does not say believe and then maybe later follow. He says believe is following. Following is believing. Next, unwritten principle. Your own way. The basic way of stating this is you must deny yourself. I hear two different implications in those wordings. They come across a little differently. Deny myself is the harder one for me to hear. The American way, of course, is indulge yourself. If one is good, two are better. Never say no to you. A gluttonous, hedonistic lifestyle is not a sin in the American gospel. It's American. Live to satisfy you. My observation is the more we pursue this American gospel, the more empty we become, the more dissatisfied we become, the more hangry we become. The wanting is never satisfied, and so we pursue more, we strive for more, we demand more, and build. Yet Jesus says the path to followership is denial. Now there's something in the New Living Translation wording of this that seems a little bit self-evident. They translate deny this way. You must give up on the way. There's something logical about this. If I'm going to follow someone else, I can't keep taking back the lead. If I take back the lead, I become the leader again. And so I have to give up my own way in order to follow Jesus. My way must go away. His way becomes my way. It reminds me of the words of John the Baptist in John 3:30. He must become greater and greater. I must become less and less. And so the life of the follower of prayer, not my will, but yours be done. We live out your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What do we think we are praying when we pray those words? We're praying, you lead, I'll follow, I'll surrender, and I'll trust you. Next line, un-American principle number 3, you must take up your cross. Luke makes it even more definitive. You must take up your cross daily. What does it mean to take up one's cross? This is not the only time Jesus uses this phrase in Matthew's gospel. Earlier in chapter 10, he calls his 12 disciples. So he declares, these are my 12. Then he sends them out. And he gives them a long list of instructions as well as orders. He tells them that this particular mission is to the lost sheep of Israel. This one's not to Gentiles. This one's not to Samaritans. That'll come later. This one's just to the lost sheep of Israel. He has to take no money with them and freely accept graciously extended generosity. He tells them what to do if they're invited in. He tells them what to do if they're rejected. And then he strongly warns them. He says, look, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. So be as shrewd as snakes and doves. But beware, for you will be handed over courts, and you will be flogged with whips in the synagogues. You will stand trial before governors and kings, because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell rulers and other unbelievers about me. And when you're arrested, don't be afraid about what you're going to say. God will give you the right words to speak at just the right time. For it is not you who will be speaking, it will be the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. He's sure not selling the task, is he? I mean, I'm kind of reading that sales pitch and going, ooh, I don't know. He then gets into what many find to be very confusing teaching. If you love your father or mother more than me, you're not worthy of being mine. If you love your son or your daughter more than me, you are not worthy of being mine. Jesus chooses what would be the most precious thing to a healthy human being: family. It's the reason we exist. And he says, even those people cannot matter more than me. The key to understanding this passage, of course, are the words more than. He says, I get first place. And then he says, if you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. Pretty much the same words, but the context helps with the understanding. Matthew 10 has 42 verses, instruction to the 12 as they will go out into the world to do mission. In verse 28, he says, don't be afraid of those who want to kill your body. They cannot touch your soul. In fact, he finishes it out by saying, fear only God, who can destroy both your body and your soul in hell. What is the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? Not a single sparrow will fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And the very hairs on your head are numbered. God knows the details of your life. So don't be afraid. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows. I love this. He says, do you have any idea how much you matter to God? He will never leave you alone. He will never leave you alone. You think you're paying some great price as a follower of Jesus? No, this is a great privilege that we get to live out. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. Is it safe to say that whatever I am clutching, whatever I am holding on to, that's become my replacement cross? That's the cross I'm choosing to cherish instead of the cross of Jesus. He goes through a long list in this passage of crosses that we clutch instead of Christ. Comfort and safety, being liked, accepted, popular, rewarded, family, things we clutch, things we think are important, things we think that matter. If you cling to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. We are supposed to be daily dying. We are supposed to be daily surrendering. We are daily releasing the grip. We are daily letting go. Not my will, but yours be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. When I say those words with sincerity, when I live those words, I'm taking up my cross daily. And we have to do it daily because the temptation to lay this cross down is so strong. And because throughout our lives, the things we need to surrender keep changing. There are challenges that you have now at 40 that are not the same as the ones you had at 20. And at 20, you look at the challenges someone has at 60 and you say, I don't get it. Our challenges change. The things we clutch change. The things that are important to us change. And at every stage, there is not one point at which I say, cross, I'll take it up, I'm good to go. Challenges keep changing. Follow, deny, take up the cross. It's a daily decision. Not my will, but yours be done. It's a daily decision. I need to say something before moving on. Taking up one's cross has been cheapened sometime to the equivalent of enduring minor inconveniences. I'm stuck in traffic every day on the way to work. Oh, it's just a cross I have to bear. In the most literal sense, Jesus was saying, will you follow me to the death? In the most literal sense, he was saying, are you willing to be a martyr for me? That request is a far cry from enduring a daily traffic jam. Taking up the cross is a daily pattern of resignation, of surrendering, of letting go, of owning as a lifestyle, not my will, but yours be done. Hear Jesus say it in the garden. My Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. It is not that Jesus had no preferences or desires. He expresses them. If it's possible, let this suffering pass from me. Like Jesus, we will still have preferences and desires, but we will be able to say, I want your will to be done, not mine. I surrender. I let go. I'm the follower. I want to call to your memory once again the words of the theologian Ignatius of Loyola. In what is called the first principle and foundation, he writes, we should not fix our desires on health or sickness, wealth or poverty, success or failure, a long life or a short one, for everything has the potential of calling forth in us a deeper response to our life in God. This is what is referred to as holy indifference. Not indifference in a shallow sort of, whatevs way. Not that. No, this is holy indifference. It's not that I have no preference, but my preference has become God's way, God's will, God's desire. And the fact is, it may be health or sickness that gets me there. It may be wealth or poverty that gets me there. Success or failure. Many, many days in this life, or very few. But everything has the potential of calling forth in us the deeper response to our life in God. Holy indifference. Holy indifference says, our only desire and one choice is this. I want and I choose what leads to God deepening his life in me. And God can use quite literally anything to accomplish that purpose. It is not that I do not have a preference. I do. But my preference becomes I want and choose whatever God thinks will be the best he desires. This is what it looks like to follow after Jesus. This is what it looks like to deny ourselves. This is what it looks like to give up our own way, to shoulder our crosses daily and follow Jesus. This is what it means to live a cross-shaped life. So I want you to imagine with me a stream that's moving pretty strongly. And there are all these fish, and they've decided to go along with the stream. They're not swimming very hard, they're just going with the current, and they're all going this direction. And you're looking at the stream, and you see this one fish, and for some reason, this one fish has decided to go this way. And it's hard to go again, it's all going that way. But he's going and going. She just keeps going in this direction. She keeps going strong in the opposite direction of everybody else. The lemon lunge is going that way. They're going with the flow, but not this fish. Every once in a while in life, someone goes the other way. They challenge the current. They swim for their lives. And you know what happens? Everyone flow that way notices, including our kids. Maybe especially our kids. They see that everybody else is doing that. Well, you're doing the opposite. And you know what? It raises questions. It challenges perspective. And it creates an appetite. An appetite that says, I want that. I want that. The cross-shaped life helps people to realize that they are hungry. They're hungry, they had no idea, because they're taking fistful of junk and they're cramming their cheeks with it, and it's just not cutting it. So let me offer this morning a couple ways we live out the cross-formed life. One cross you will endure in this life is accusation and insult, false charges. We'll label this persecution with a small p, not a capital P. Look what Peter says. He's an expert, by the way, in living and dying daily, the cross-shaped life. He says, now, who will want to harm you if you're eager to do good? He's kind of going with this assumption, an assumption we all live with. If I'm doing good, everyone's going to like me. Things are going to go well. I mean, come on, I'm doing good. He says, but even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you for it. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. He says, if somebody asks about the hope that's in you, explain it, do it in a gentle, respectful way. He says, keep your conscience clear. And then he says, against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. Verse 17. Remember, it is better to suffer for doing good if that's what God wants. Can I read that again? Because that's in the Bible. If that's what God wants, if God wants us to suffer for doing good, it is better than to suffer for doing what is wrong. There is so much to unpack in this paragraph. Let me point out a couple things. Doing the right thing doesn't always lead to smiles. Doing the good thing does not always lead to people being happy with you. We live under this American illusion that if we package the gospel of Jesus just right, if we say it in just the most beautiful way, people will love us and they'll love it. But here's the thing. If I'm declaring and living out the truth of this book, some people, in fact a lot of people, will not be very happy. Doing the right thing does not always lead to smiles. But doing the right thing, according to this, does reward and lead to awakening. This is important to see. We saw it last week as we examined 2 Corinthians chapter 4. The cross-shaped life sees a bigger picture. Who am I living to please? What am I living for? I'm not just living for here, for here. But even if you suffer doing what is right, God will reward you for it. Doing the right thing leads to reward. It also leads to awakening. He says, then if people speak against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. There will come a moment of awakening that they'll see the way you respond to insult. You respond to false accusation. Not your response when they'll say something different is going on there. The centurion who led the crucifixion of Jesus watched the way Jesus suffered, the way he endured pain, the way he absorbed insults. He saw the way Jesus died, and what did he conclude? This was truly a righteous man. This was the Son of God. Doing what was right did not spare Jesus' suffering. My Father, if it is possible, let the cup of suffering be taken from me. He still suffered. But it did lead to the will of the Father being accomplished. In all of this, we've just begun to scratch the surface of what it means to live the cross-shaped life. The way we handle persecution displays the power of the cross, and it displays the presence of Jesus within us. It is also true that the way we handle personal pain and suffering speaks volumes, even physical pain. I want you to watch a story with me of an author. His name is Paul Tripp. I watched this recently and I was impressed with how it conveys the idea of walking through cross-shaped physical suffering.
I cannot live as I once did. I cannot do what I once did. I cannot push through what you have chosen for me. I cannot break free. I cannot will for something better. Weakness is my lot. Suffering is my prison. You have chained me to frailty. I cannot break free. October 2014, I walked over with who was at Jefferson Hospital because I was having some minor symptoms. I thought maybe 45 minutes in the little examining room, they'd give me a medication and send me home. And was shocked when, within 15-20 minutes, there were doctors from 5 different departments in my examining room. I can remember laying there and hearing in the background doctors discussing whether they would put me on dialysis. I thought they had the wrong room. That was the first time I realized that whatever was going on in my body was way more serious than I had any concept of. The first 36 hours in the hospital, I went through unspeakable pain, full body spasms that felt like somebody was sticking a knife in you. It was hungry every 2 minutes. I wanted to die. My adult son said he never knew this level of suffering existed yet. That first visit became 10 days, and it was 10 days to try to get a hold of my kidneys so they would not continue to disintegrate. It was then I realized I would have to have follow-up surgery. Little did I know that I would develop scar tissue that would mean another surgery, and that surgeries would never not be safe. There's the weakness of suffering. There's the loss of control. There's the pain of wondering what God is doing. There's this irrationality that how could it be that God would render me the weakest in my life at the point of my greatest influence? God was doing things in the heart of Paul Tripp that had long needed to be done. What I would have named as faith in Christ was actually pride in my strength, pride in my abilities, pride in my physical health. That's not real faith. And God put me in a place where I began to actually believe that His grace is sufficient. It's made perfect in my weakness. Those hammers on me were hammers of an artist, changing the shape of my heart so that I would believe in a more deeper, fuller way what I had preached to others for years. This is what it takes for God to produce that in me. This has been worth it. This prison is your workroom, and I am your clay. You are not a jailer, you are a potter. I have not been condemned. I am being molded. My weakness is not about what I am enduring. My weakness is about what I am becoming. My strength is and has always been you.
A couple of incredibly powerful lines there. My weakness is not about what I'm enduring. My weakness is about what I'm becoming. And if this is what it takes for God to produce this in me, then it's worth it. Those are the words of a person who's embracing cross-shaped suffering. Shelley and I celebrated Daigle Day on Friday. Lauren Daigle's in town. Well, she did too. Headed over to Rosemont to hear her concert. I've been impressed with so many songs on the latest album she's put out. They're not all, Candyland and Sunshine. The words of several of the songs appear to be born from a season of waiting, of longing, of hoping when hope seems unreasonable. One such song is one that Shelley sang last week for communion, entitled Rescue. It's written from the perspective of God, singing to one of His children, one of His desperate children. And here's why we need to absorb this. One might hear this message and think that it's all about what we need to do. We need to just get with it. Come on now. Suck it up. Fight. Endure. Struggle. Follow. Shoulder that cross. Let's go. But we read these words from Paul last week. We now have this light shining in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure. This makes it clear that our great power is from God and not from ourselves. What is he saying? Our fragile nature, our weakness, our brokenness proves that the power shining through us is not our own power. It is God's power. What does this generation need? It needs a power encounter. They need to see a demonstration of an inexplicable power. And you know what? We need it too. We need to know that we are not doing this on our own, just trying our hardest and giving it our best. No. We need to know that when we are weakest, when we are most broken, when we are most desperate, that's when the light of God's power comes shining through the cracks in our clay vessels. You are not alone in this. You don't just take up your cross just to be good. You take it up so God can shine through you. At the moment you are most desperate, at the moment you are most alone, he says, I will send out an army to find you. In the middle of the darkest night, it's true, I will rescue you. I will always rescue you. You are never alone. You're never alone. He says, I am always with you. And so living out a cross-formed life as followers of Jesus and as the Church of Jesus Christ is less about showing off our many successes and instead highlighting our weaknesses, knowing that it is then that God's presence and power shine through the cracks in our fragile pottery. And so we choose. We choose to dedicate ourselves to stand courageously for truth. We choose to dedicate ourselves to love with compassion a lost and broken world. And we dedicate ourselves to living out a cross-shaped, cross-formed life. Father God in heaven, none of us wants our weakness on display. None of us loves seasons of pain and heartache and loss. We hear what it means to live out a cross-formed life, and to be perfectly honest, there are large parts of it on the surface that are just plain unappealing, un-American. But what have we gained if we scoop up the entire world in our arms and our souls are lost? We choose